বিসমিল্লাহির রহমানির রহিম। আমি প্রথমে ইংরেজিতে বলবো, তারপরে বাংলায় বলবো। আজকে 30শে ডিসেম্বর 2022-এর একটা একটা খুব একটা কালো অধ্যায়ের একটা কলঙ্কিত একটা দিনের জন্যে আমাদের এটা মার্ক করা দরকার একটা স্টেটমেন্ট দিয়ে। Today, December 30th, 2022 is the anniversary of a shameful day in Bangladesh history. The people of Bangladesh were cheated of their voting rights in order to sustain a totally corrupt, brutal, kleptocratic dictatorship of the Awami League. The collaboration of the administration, the police, and the army in this conspiracy is deeply regretted by the people of Bangladesh. These institutions have been misused by Sheikh Hasina Wajid's Awami League. I will first recount my personal experience. I was a candidate as a member of the opposition Oikko Front, United Front. In my constituency, Nobigonj Bahubol, Hobigonj 1, we found that by 10:30 there was a great wave of support in favor of my candidacy. However, voting centers were already being manipulated and a large number of votes had been cast the night before. At Durlabpur School, which I visited near my residence in Nobigonj, I found that there were a large queue of men and women waiting to be led inside to vote at 8:30 in the morning. Some of them had been there since 6:30. I was told that after they went in, they found half a dozen boxes full of votes, even though they were the first voters to be let into that voting center. From this, you can realize that there was a vote in the night. I was informed that at various Awami League officials' houses, the police cooperated in filling ballot boxes with false votes. Some policemen gave thousands of votes on their own. And the Awami League expected that the 50,000 or 60,000 votes cast in favor of their candidate would be enough. But when they found there was a surge of support for my candidacy, they decided to capture the voting stations. And by 11:30 in the morning, we had information that out of about 215 centers, 130 had been captured by the Awami League criminals, with the assistance and connivance of the police. I had visited the army the night before, the day before, and met the army officials who were supposed to act as a striking force to go to trouble spots to deal with election day problems. The striking force was actually a force on strike. They did nothing. And in fact, the numbers given to me to contact the army in case of trouble, all the numbers were unreachable on the election date. This horrible event of December 30, 2018 was followed by 4 more years of misrule, thievery, and gross incompetence in the running of the Republic. The Awami League committed terrible crimes for which they cannot afford to be held accountable. That is the reason why they cannot accept that there would be a fair election and that another party would come to power. They fear the rule of law. Just like Sheikh Hasina Wajid's father, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, created a one-party state to be run by a party called Bakshal, the same principle is in effect today. We essentially have a one-party state in the name of a multi-party democracy. There are some parties who participate in parliament and act as the opposition, but actually they are the stooges and collaborators of the ruling party. They are the paid agents of the Bangladesh Awami League. These people lack self-respect and lack integrity. The whole parliament is full of people who don't have self-respect. Otherwise, they would not masquerade as people's representatives, even though they were not elected by means of a popular vote. The people of this country could not participate in that election. Now, we protest the use of national security agencies, the police, RAB, the army, to suppress the opposition. Their duty is to protect the nation from its enemies inside and outside the country. The opposition is not the enemy of the republic. The opposition seeks to reform the republic, to protect the republic. After 14 years, we are in a complete dictatorship. The press, the media, the issuance of illegal orders to government officials. On that issue, I'd like to say government officials who receive illegal orders do not need to obey these. Orders that are unconstitutional and clearly illegal should not be obeyed. For example, extrajudicial killings on the orders of political leadership of the Awami League should not be done by police and other security agencies. There are many such instances, and these police and security agencies have even been sanctioned by the United States and other countries for their crimes. So these crimes are internationally recognized. The regime is supported by dictatorships around the world. That's their company, that's the company they keep. And a certain regional power that has supported this government to stay in power for their own national interests, which is natural. I accept that. But an exploitative relationship has been created in this relationship, an exploitative relationship that has created great hatred from the people of Bangladesh towards this neighboring country. This has been a mistake, and I feel that in foreign relations, the hatred of a nation is not something that any country should want. Certainly not a regional power seeking an unequal relationship. At the moment, economic mismanagement has come to the fore. There is waste, there is corruption, development projects are completed, but at terribly inflated costs, leaving massive long-term debt burdens for the country's people. The banks have been systematically looted. All of you know of the case of the Islami Bank of Bangladesh, where 30,000 crore, which is approximately $3 billion, has been looted by a particular business group closely connected to the ruling party. This sort of activity has weakened the banking system so much that it cannot perform its function of financial intermediation. And the waste in the country is legendary. The per kilometer cost of roads in Bangladesh, according to the World Bank, is the highest in the world. And all of you know our roads are not quite as good as the roads in Japan or Switzerland, but I assure you our roads are more expensive. Why should our people accept this sort of looting by government and government agencies? The opposition has been systematically brutalized whenever it seeks to channel public disaffection. It is difficult. People have said, why don't more people come into the streets? Why don't more women participate in politics? It is difficult to stand in a peaceful demonstration against a Hitler or a Saddam Hussein or a Muammar Gaddafi or a Nicolae Ceausescu. These brutal dictators crush all dissent very brutally, and the women in Bangladesh suffer particularly due to police action. So one should not expect that the international media expects more people to be out in the street, But the brutality of this regime precludes this sort of activity. Peaceful protests are dealt with violently. All of you will note that in different districts of the country, one of the major opposition parties, the BNP, has been attacked by goons of the Chhatra League, the student wing of the Awami League, and people have been killed. These people have attacked, the Chhatra League activists have attacked demonstrators in full view of the police. They've used guns and lethal weapons against demonstrators. It's well documented, it's in videos and photographs, and the major newspapers have carried these stories. The police has taken no action. Their instructions are from a higher authority to allow this sort of brutalization of peaceful protests. We protest the arrest of the leaders of the BNP and Jamaat Islami on totally trumped up charges. 2,000 clerics, Islamic clerics, greatly respected people in our society, have been arrested and are being tortured and kept under terrible conditions in the jails. We demand their immediate release by this government. People have been arrested for protesting the visit of a foreign leader. Everyone has the right to do that. I will point out that in the UK, when President Trump was to visit, 100,000 people or more demonstrated against the visit of President Trump. I don't recall anyone attacking these protesters in the street or any arrests taking place for that reason. So we have a right as citizens to protest the visit of any foreign dignitary. We have that right under our constitution. There is no bar to such an action. As long as it is peaceful and not destructive of property, we should be able to do this. I would like to tell everyone that the main danger to this regime comes from the prospect of an economic collapse. High inflation will be worsened in the coming months by excessive printing of money to finance government operations. We are headed for a Sri Lanka type situation. I hope that the fall of this government occurs before that situation is reached, because once you have reached the situation of Sri Lanka, it will take many years, perhaps 15 to 20 years, to come back to the point from where you started. It's a very difficult process. I have worked in collapsed economies because I worked for the International Monetary Fund, and I can assure you it's a very difficult process. And governments really struggle in the initial years to just stabilize the economy, let alone fulfill the aspirations of the people of that country. This government's days are numbered, but this regime leaves behind a huge debt burden and a destruction of virtually every public institution in the country. That is perhaps their most terrible long-term legacy. It will take many years for us to pay back these loans. When an atomic energy plant is built at a cost of $13.5 billion, where a comparable plant in India was built for $3 billion, you can understand the amount of graft that took place at the highest levels of the current government in order to build this facility at an inflated cost. But the cost of this facility will have to be paid by the common people of Bangladesh through their taxes. So this debt burden cannot be escaped. Rebuilding the republic will take time and determination on the part of the people. I believe that Gana Adhikar Parishad is going to play an important role in the restoration of the rights of the people, in the regeneration of the republic, and the return to the dreams of those who founded this republic 51 years ago. I think this party of the youth of this country is going to play a decisive role. I look to the youth of our country with the energy, determination, and enthusiasm that they have to play a more important role in directing the affairs of the country, because the last 51 years in general has been a record of failure in terms of satisfying the aspirations of the common people of Bangladesh. We want a republic where the interests of all the people are looked after, not just the interests of 15 or 20 families that are close to the ruling party. Ordinary people must feel this is our government. And inshallah, there will be a government where opposition to the government will be treated differently. There will be no brutalization of the opposition, but any criticism will be taken seriously, because it will be a government that will be run in the interests of the people of Bangladesh. We will not look to any other country's interest first. Our country's interest will come first. Our people's interests come first. We will be friendly with many countries. We will certainly cooperate with them. But where it's a question of their interest and my country's interest, I assure you that our party and our people expect our leaders to first protect the interests of Bangladesh. Thank you very much.